I appreciate it. Now, look, we've had another terrible, terrible week. Endless mass shootings. These turn our stomach, hurt our hearts, and every American is asking why. So we're here today to discuss an issue that relates to all of the prevalence of guns in our society going places they shouldn't go. We're discussing today a weapon that is currently for sale and being marketed to and for children. It has a disgusting name. It's called the JR-15. Can you believe that? A gun is called the JR-15, a spin-off of the AR-15. And not only do we know of the multiple mass shootings that have occurred, but a few weeks ago we saw in Virginia, we watched with horror as we heard about a 6-year-old shooter, first grade, pointing a gun at his teacher and killing her. It's a painful reminder that weapons like this need to be reined in and not advertised to children. Not only do they need to be reined in, the law says you shouldn't be marketing guns to kids, but there's a company in Chicago that's doing exactly that. Today I'm asking if this Chicago area company that makes this sick weapon, the JR-15, might actually be breaking the FTC's laws and regulations. The last thing we need to be doing is reducing in size these deadly weapons of war and then marketing them to children. But that's what's happening. Yeah, bring it over. Oh, come, Tammy. You're okay? Okay. All right. We must stop the raining of bullets across the nation and stop this horrible marketing campaign, not only so it stops, but so that others don't do it. Because if this is left alone, others are likely to do it as well. The FTC has the power and the proof to take a hard look at this dangerous JR-15 marketing effort. So today, we are asking the FTC to investigate the company that makes and advertises this. And just so you can see it all. Here, Tammy. JR-15. It's supposed to look like the AR-15, but be marketed to kids. And if there's any doubt that they're not marketing to kids, here, look at this poster. This is put out by the company with the young kid and the gun. What are we coming to? Let's put this here. People under the age of 18 cannot own a gun. So why is this this kind of gun? So why is the company so fervently marketing to kids? It's a serious question with federal consequences, and that's why we've asked the FTC to investigate, and I have sent a letter to the FTC, which I don't have here. Do we have a copy of the letter, folks? Okay. The bottom line is simple. With the epidemic of youth gun violence and mass shootings in an idea like this, a children's AR-15 should just not see the light of day. According to the company's advertising, quote, the JR-15 is the first in a line of shooting platforms that will, quote, assist families and, quote, functions like a modern sporting rifle, however. It functions like a modern sporting rifle, and, however, most importantly, its small size, lightweight, and rugged polymer construction and ergonomics are geared towards smaller enthusiasts. So there's no doubt they're marketing it to kids. And I showed you the picture. The stuff is pretty despicable, so we want the FTC to give it a thorough look. I don't have who is next in line. I guess it is Senator Blumenthal. Okay.
Despicable is the right word, Senator Schumer, but it is absolutely obscene and outrageous that the JR-15, otherwise known as Junior 15, the Junior 15 may be a smaller version of an assault rifle, but there is nothing smaller about the damage that it can do. And let's come right to the point. We don't need new legislation here. We don't need a new law. What we need is enforcement. The FTC has the power. It has the proof in these posters, in its ads, and in the statements of its owner, who said, Eric Schmidt, owner of the We Won, said, "We worked hard on that logo. It's pretty exciting. That keeps the wow factor with the kids, I think." This weapon and these ads are the Joe Camel of the arms industry today. The firearms industry has taken a page from Big Tobacco's book. In fact, they've taken the whole book. Marketing to kids, that's where the money is. And here is the lesson of Big Tobacco. We can win. All we need to do is enforce the law. Deceptive and misleading advertising is already against the law. Saying that these firearms are safe or useful for any reason, marketing them to kids, is against the law. To the FTC, I say, use the tools. Use the law that you have right now. Do not be intimidated or scared by the firearms industry. They may be able to intimidate Congress. They should not intimidate the enforcers. There is nothing junior about this kind of weapon, as we've seen with 6-year-olds, 4-year-olds, teenagers using these kinds of weapons to do great damage in our society. And Senator Markey and I have written to the FTC previously, along with my colleague Senator Murphy, and we are determined that the FTC will do its job. It doesn't need new tools. It has them right now.
Senator Murphy.
I'm proud to introduce Senator Murphy.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Senator Schumer, for leading this effort. Grateful to all of my colleagues. Listen, this is an open and shut case. This particular company is obviously marketing to kids. That's the entire intention of the gun. But let's just be clear. Makers of AR-15s that are being sold today that we think of as being marketed primarily to adults are also being marketed to kids. So on the day that the Uvalde shooter turned 18, there was an ad by the maker of the gun that he bought days later that involved a small toddler sitting on the ground in a T-shirt that said "Rascal" with an assault weapon in his hands, with a biblical proverb talking about training children young with an assault weapon in his hands. And so this tactic of marketing to children, marketing to toddlers, encouraging parents to buy assault weapons for their small children, this isn't just about We Won. This is an industry-wide practice that has absolutely devastating consequences because we know the rate of accidental shootings, the number of kids that are getting their hands on guns, it is absolutely skyrocketing all across this country. And I think we probably can pass additional legislation to protect our kids, but man, we can just start by making sure that our existing agencies use the law that they have to make sure that these companies are held accountable when they market weapons of mass destruction to children. So I'm grateful to the big turnout here today. It obviously shows you how many people all across this country care about getting this right. Thanks, Senator Schumer.
Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Senator Schumer. I've gone to the floor of the Senate twice with these posters, really letting the American people know what JR-15 is all about. We know the reality of gun deaths in the state of Illinois, that horrendous shooting at Highland Park in the 4th of July parade, among other things, crippled an 8-year-old boy who will be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. That's the reality of gun violence. There isn't one of us on stage that can't tell the story from a personal perspective. But this is an outrage. It is an outrage that the current laws of the United States of America basically protect and absolve these companies from the same liability every other business faces. That's the reality. But there is no exemption, there is no protection when it comes to this advertising. It is unacceptable for the Federal Trade Commission not to really look at this in honest terms. This is an appeal to children for a product that is inherently dangerous. If there's one thing they should step in to do, it's to protect these children. I'm sorry that the We One tactical company is based in Illinois, as I'm sure Senator Duckworth is. Then unfortunately, they are trying to get children to start using military-style weapons. They want more Americans to use these weapons, and they're hooking them to the young with JR-15. It's straight out of the tobacco company playbook, and I know a little bit about this. You can recall what the tobacco companies did to addict people to tobacco at an early age. Their deceptive advertising, as was mentioned, Joe Camel. And once addicted to their products, the poor folks suffered for a lifetime. The same is true with this appeal to children and to their parents of children to buy these weapons that the children themselves can use. Would a small child be sensible enough to avoid using them? Well, we have a sixth grader in a first grade classroom that proved otherwise just recently. So let's be honest about it. This is appealing to kids, and it's got to come to an end.
Senator Markey.
Thank you, Senator Schumer. Thank you for your leadership on this issue. We are here in an important fight for our nation and our children. Not even 1 month into the new year, and the United States is already in the midst of an alarming epidemic of gun violence. In 2023, we have already seen 39 mass shootings. Yet despite this epidemic and its devastating effects on our young people, some weapons manufacturers are blatantly and unabashedly flaunting their efforts to market deadly firearms to children. In 2022, a company known as We One Tactical unveiled the JR-15, which sounds a lot like the AR-15 on which it is modeled. This Junior 15 is marketed as a kid-friendly version of the weapon of choice used in so many mass shootings. Last May, I led 10 of my Senate colleagues, including Senators Blumenthal and Murphy and Padilla, in urging the Federal Trade Commission to investigate the marketing of these highly lethal firearms to America's children. After I sent that letter, We One Tactical went dark. Its website was no longer accessible. It stopped taking orders for its weapons. But now, just 3 weeks after a 6-year-old shot his public school teacher in Virginia, We One Tactical is back again, pushing its JR-15, sickeningly rebranding it as representing American family values. Gun manufacturers are priming children to look forward to the day they turn 18 so that they can buy an AR-15 and calling that American values. For decades, the firearms industry and gun lobby have been targeting young children for financial and political gain. The industry consistently makes false and misleading claims about firearm safety and unfairly exploits children and teenagers through unfair and deceptive marketing practices that ultimately lead to fatal consequences, which we have seen time and time again. We know that the tobacco industry targets young children. My father, who smoked 2 packs of Camels a day, told me when I was 11, he knew I would start smoking when I was 11. Don't take the quarter out of my pockets. My father knew that, and he died of lung cancer because he smoked those 2 packs of Camels a day. The tobacco industry are knowingly murdering people in our country. The NRA knows the same thing, and so doesn't this company. We know that what this company is doing is a per se violation of Section 5 of the Federal Trade Commission Act, an unfair and deceptive practice. It is well within the penumbra of that section. And so we call upon, once again, the Federal Trade Commission to act. They have yet to respond to the letter of the 10 senators from last summer on this issue. It is time for them to act. We need a watchdog at the Federal Trade Commission to take on this issue, to fight for the public health in our country. We need to block these companies from advertising their lethal weapons to the children of our country. I thank you, Senator Schumer, for taking up this cause.
Thank you, Senator Markey. Senator Duckworth.
Thank you. I join my colleagues in condemning this marketing campaign. I think I'm the only person on this stage who actually carried an assault weapon for 23 years in my military service and qualified at the expert level in firing those weapons. Let me tell you, these weapons are intended to kill enemy combatants. They are intended to knock down the enemy, rip apart bodies so that they cannot get back up and shoot back at you on the field of combat. These rifles are intended to kill enemy combatants who are wearing body armor. Yet they're remarkably similar to the kind that this company is trying to seduce our kids into coveting. The gunmaker itself admitted it. They wrote just about the sickest phrase I can imagine in 2021 in a press release, claiming, bragging really, that their JR-15, and I quote, operates just like mom and dad's gun. Some of the children in these ads don't yet appear old enough to know their times table. Some of these kids that they're marketing to might not yet be allowed to cut up their own dinner because mommy and daddy still considers the knife to be too sharp. We certainly don't see companies advertising tactical knives to children of this age, and we would probably be just as upset by it. And yet, We Want Tactical has looked at these elementary schoolers, has looked at our babies, and decided that making a few more dollars is worth the added risk to these children's lives. They've made the calculated, craven choice to value their own profits ahead of our daughters' and sons' odds of making it to next year's science fair. Last May, I went to talk to my daughter's Memorial Day class event. Her teacher had asked me to come to explain the meaning of Memorial Day, to talk about the sacrifices that our troops have made to safeguard our freedoms and rights as a nation, including the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And as I was talking in my older daughter's, my 8-year-old's classroom, I happened to look out the window into the hallway, only to see my younger daughter, my 4-year-old, in the middle of a shelter-in-place drill. I watched in horror as her little cluster of 3- and 4-year-olds crouched down as small as they could get. I watched as my baby pressed her head against the wall and put her hands over her head as if that was going to stop a round from one of these weapons. She was barely out of her toddler years, and yet she was already being taught how to try to survive if someone with a weapon of war comes into the classroom where she was learning her ABCs, believing that their right to fire assault rifles matters more than her right to make it to the age of 5. What I felt was horror, and I know other parents have felt the same as they try to imagine the unimaginable. I've spoken before about researching ballistic backpacks and ballistic whiteboards for my daughters to have in their classrooms, and the fact of the matter is that those pages are bookmarked in my phone. It's not the first time I've looked at them. Facebook's own employees have cited some of their platform's rifle-promoting ads as dangerous and reckless. We cannot and must not allow this to go on another day, another hour. We need the FTC to act. They must begin the investigation, because every minute that we let parasitic companies like this try to trick our babies into buying and asking to be bought weapons of war, we risk witnessing another classroom turning into a massacre. Every moment we let this continue, we risk having to bury yet another first grader in their favorite pair of Converse. Enough. Let's end this sickening marketing strategy. Let's ban, and then we need to ban the sale of military-style assault weapons altogether. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Senator Padilla comes from a state which has just witnessed tragedy after tragedy from gun violence.
Thank you, Leader Schumer, for the invitation to join you for your leadership on this. As Leader Schumer just referenced, I do have the honor of representing California, where families throughout the state, and particularly in 3 different communities, are in mourning in the wake of 3 back-to-back-to-back mass shootings. This last Monday, I was literally just returning home from visiting the Victims Resource Center in Monterey Park, where a gunman killed 11 people, when I received word that there were 2 more incidents, one in Half Moon Bay and one in Oakland, where together those 2 incidents took the lives of 8 more Californians. Americans are sick of having our hearts broken. I'm sick of having my heart broken. To all the Americans across the country who are demanding that Congress take more action, I want to be clear. It is Republicans in Congress who continue to value gun industry profits over people. And so Leader Schumer is right to call out the companies that are not just peddling weapons of war, but shamelessly pushing these weapons of war on our children. While we're trying to protect schools, while we're working to protect houses of worship and dance halls and other places of comfort in our society, they are propagating a culture of chaos and fear, where Americans' lives are worth less than the profits they can make from a JR-15. Now, I refuse to live in a society where we're afraid to drop our kids off at school for the fear that a tragedy might strike either there or at a community in celebration. So we will hold these companies accountable and continue to call upon our Republican colleagues to stand up, to have the courage to protect our communities, to have the courage to save lives. We know assault weapon bans save lives by reducing the number of mass shootings. We know that universal background checks will help prevent people in crisis from accessing deadly weapons. It's clear that the gun lobby has had a grip on Republicans in Congress for far too long, and as a result, they have blocked meaningful progress. But I have hope. I have hope because year after year, the gun safety movement gets stronger and stronger. And when we passed the first gun safety legislation in 30 years last Congress, thank you, Senator Murphy, it became clear that our movement is growing stronger than the gun lobby. So we'll keep fighting because every step forward means preventing another Monterey Park, another Half Moon Bay, another preventable act of violence. Thank you.
I want to thank all my colleagues for their eloquence and their passion on this issue. Everyone here has done lots of work to deal with gun violence. Questions on this subject? Yes.
Mayor Schumer, President Biden wants a ban on assault weapons. Obviously, it's no secret it took a lot of work to get even that bill across the finish line last summer. But why not force votes on these issues and just get Republicans on the record?
The bottom line is nobody cares more about this than me. I'm the author of the assault weapons ban in 1994. We are going to keep working to try and get the requisite number of votes to pass it. Yes? It's one of the things we want to get done. Look, no one thought we could get anything done, and last summer, due to Chris Murphy and others around here's good work, we got significant legislation done. We're going to keep at it. We're going to keep at it. Yes?
For those of us that are maybe not as well versed on this topic, can you explain what an FTC investigation into this would look like and what the final
Yes.
result of an investigation would be?
My colleagues have talked about it. They've done this with ads aimed at kids for cigarettes under their statutory authority of doing misleading and false advertising, and that's where this would come from. Yes?
For Senator Durbin, and I was going to ask Senator Duckworth as well, obviously this company is based in the state of Illinois. The state of Illinois has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. What does it say that you have advertisers like this based in a state where guns are already restricted quite a bit?
These companies are so bold, they believe that they are above the law. They believe they can beat the law in our courts. We just passed in the state legislature an assault weapons ban in Illinois. And of course, the Republicans went to court immediately and got a stay in many parts of the state and many entities. So they have friends in high places, and they think they'll prevail. And they have the Republicans here in Congress who have stopped efforts at sane gun policy for years. So that explains it as far as I'm concerned. There's no legal explanation. It's just a matter of political power.
Thank you, everybody.